Ladies and gentlemen, next Tuesday, the 21st, XDefiant is officially launching, and today they put out a briefing to going over some gameplay tips, map guides, and pre-season developer insight. And I wanted to just put a video up there. I was originally going to put this on the main channel. I don't know what's actually in this. I'm blind watching it with you guys. But this is everything that they are putting out before the launch of the game. So essentially, this is going to be everything that you need to know. I think a lot of it's going to kind of be bold tips, just play the game. But we're going to see what this is all about and what we can learn before the launch of the game. So this is put out directly by Ubisoft. So let's see what it's all about. So it looks like starting out with some gameplay. Oh, debrief. That's what they're calling it. It's not a briefing. It's a debriefing.
What's going on, everyone? And welcome to XDebrief, the show that gives you all the news, details, and updates on XDefiant.
This is a great idea to do this, by the way.
And I'll be your host. Every episode, I'll be joined by a developer to talk about the state of the game, what updates are on the way, and give you a first look at new things like maps, weapons.
This is what Call of Duty should be doing instead of just putting out a blog post, but hey.
Factions, and more.
The other thing I will say is Call of Duty puts out updates really quickly in their game compared to other games. I know people shit on Call of Duty for that, but like if you actually compare it, I don't know if they'd be able to keep up with it with the videos.
We also want to build the show with you. So let me introduce you to a crucial member of our team, Zach Paget. Zach is a community developer on XDefiant, and he's the direct link between you and the show. Take it away, Zach.
Hey everyone, I'm
Hi, Zach,
the community developer on XDefiant. As Yusuf just mentioned, there is no XDebrief without you. So feel free to talk to us. Comment on this YouTube video or post in our Discord and let us know what you want.
By the way, the one thing that everyone is praising for XDefiant is they came out and straight up said, we hate engagement optimized matchmaking. It makes the game boring. I'm curious if they bring it up again because that's really the thing that everyone's been talking about.
See in the show. We want to make sure that you're both seen and heard. So each XDebrief will end with a community segment where we'll be answering those questions and showing off amazing moments. To be a part of the show, just use the hashtag XDebrief to submit your questions and gameplay clips. Until next time.
Now, this being the first episode of XDebrief, we thought it only fitting to start things off with executive producer Mark Rubin.
So he's like the big guy that's been talking all about it. I believe he worked on Call of Duty.
Grow and evolve with players. Let's get into the
Oh, we're Zoom calls.
Because
we're back in 2020, I see.
Obviously, you have a ton of experience with first-person shooters, and I want to know, for you, what makes a great arcade shooter?
Is going to always be the controls. If you don't get the controls right, if you don't get the feel, the fluidity,
that's what Call of Duty always does, right?
Not just the controls themselves. That also has to do with things like the map design and how you flow through the map. If it doesn't feel so natural that you almost don't notice it, you're really not quite there yet. And I think that's something that we've had as a major focus for our game since the very beginning. And it's why we brought in a lot of experts, a lot of pro players to make sure we get those controls just right.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of what makes a good first-person shooter, I know you've made some very specific decisions with XDefiant, one of them being no skill-based matchmaking.
Oh, now, they did bring it up.
Folks who might not be familiar, what exactly is skill-based matchmaking, and why did you decide that it wasn't right for XDefiant?
Okay, so skill-based matchmaking, also known as oftenly as SBMM, basically
too many M's there, but yeah,
the game decides that you have a certain skill level after it kind of watches you play for a few matches, and then matches you up with people who are equivalent on your skill level. Now, in the olden days, it was pretty light and didn't really intrude too much into the game.
So I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe he worked on Call of Duty. Not sure what games, but he is talking about the early games when really skill-based matchmaking, most of it was based off of your in-game level.
It has become something that is more what they call actually engagement-based matchmaking now, where it sort of is like an AI that's monitoring your behavior and going, okay, this person's getting beaten too many times and we think they might quit, so we're going to make the game easier for them, and then you'll get a game where you win, and then it'll bring you back to the playing against the same people you were playing before. And the thing with all that, besides the whole sort of morality of it, is that I think it creates a stale experience.
It does.
Like you
Completely
keep playing
agree.
against the same exact people, not the same exact people specifically, but the same exact type of player. You lose out on all the fun variety that I think a lot of the old school shooters had. Like you jump into a match and you can see a guy in there who's just wrecking, right? And he is just absolutely destroying, and you're kind of having fun with it because he's just so good, or she. And then you get into another game where you're the person who's wrecking, right? Like, and that experience, that variety is really what I think is.
He's 100% right.
Some of the modern,
and like at least at that point you can actually feel yourself becoming a better player. It's not just like, oh well, I got better, so everyone else did too.
Arcade shooters, and I think it's something that we really feel is important to bring back to first-person shooters.
Your philosophy with XDefiant through this whole pre-launch phase seems to be, let's get it in the hands of players, let's listen to players. And obviously there was a closed beta, you've also had open sessions, you've had, the PTS session as well. What sort of feedback are you getting from players, and how has the game kind of evolved from that closed beta to where it is now at launch?
It's amazing how much influence players have had on this game. I mean, you look at the start at our very, very first closed beta where we...
So just playing devil's advocate here, the game didn't feel much different to me from the beta to the PTS at all. Honestly, I didn't notice much of a difference.
For a Tom Clancy punk rock game, and the feedback we got was nobody wanted that and nobody liked it. And we were like, okay. We said, let's redo it. Let's take the time to redesign. And it's not just big things like that. It's been little things like map voting was something that we didn't have on our roadmap until much later after launch as a possible add if we felt like it was important. And everything we've done, whether it's through all the tests and all the design,
it's a small thing. It's a small thing, but it's a big thing.
We
right?
actually put in early and got it into some of our playtests because players requested it. That's the behavior that we have on this game, and that's the philosophy that has led to where we are now and will continue to drive us for the future.
Honestly, it seems like a lot of the things that they're saying are things that people wanted in Call of Duty and now they are doing.
Speaking of that gathering feedback and the input players have had, what is your philosophy on gathering player feedback? Because obviously there are the vocal folks out there who are gonna let their opinions be known, but you're also gathering a lot of data, I imagine, behind the scenes. So how do you balance those two?
I want that lobby
versus what you're seeing.
The more we communicate with our audience, the more we talk with them, the more we listen, and the more we show them, compare with the data. And I think for us, again, transparency being a big thing, I want to share that data, not just say, hey, the data shows that we think this is the right.
So this is what, again, he's just taking the words out of what people are saying about Call of Duty. Call of Duty has all this data and people are like, well, tell us what's going on there. And then this year they finally were like, okay, well, this is what we're doing with matchmaking. And that's what he's saying. He's like, we have this data. We might as well tell it to you.
Choice. So that's why we made that choice. I'd rather say, hey, look, here's the data. This is what we're working with. This is what we've found. I know there's some opinions that maybe contradict this, but we have this data. Let's talk about it. I think there's that language that we have to build with our audience. It's something we want to continue to do for 8 or more years from now. We want to keep having that same kind of dialogue.
So what they're saying is that this is a game that
When
they're
you
going to
look at
support for years
XDefiant,
to come.
What things need to happen for it to achieve that level of success?
It's all about exciting content that just makes you go, I did not expect that. And for us, we have access to every single IP that Ubisoft has ever
Which is
shipped.
really cool.
So everything that you can think of is available to us in some way or format. So when we look at our roadmap, content-wise, we already have most of our content done for the first year.
I want a Far Cry
We're
Primal
already working
update.
into our second year. Things like a new faction every season is going to change up the gameplay and change up the meta of the gameplay. I love how our maps, keeping the game fresh, keeping you excited about, there's a new place to play the game in a new and completely surprising location. That's something that...
Yeah, and that's one thing that I will say about this game is they're not going for realism. So because they're not going for realism, they will never get that complaint that Call of Duty gets where half the people playing think it's a mill sim. So they can do really crazy things and be like, yeah, what did you expect?
That will really keep this game going for a long period of time.
I imagine it's been a long road to get here. What does this moment mean to you?
This is a special moment to be able to come together and create a brand new IP, a brand new shooter that has so far the amount of attention that this one has had. For me personally, yeah, being here today and this moment is just is a huge achievement for myself.
Okay, I'm probably the only one thinking this, but Mark Rubin behind him, they have something blurred out. I don't know whether it's just his camera. He has like a giant TV off to the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, that's either a very large Xerox machine or a very interesting 3D printer. And all I'm thinking about right now is wondering what it is, but we're never going to know.
For the team, and emotionally, just super exciting.
What is it?
Can't wait.
Enjoy this one.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's really exciting. Thank you for having me.
While Mark and team have been working on XDefiant for a while now, for players, the journey is just about to start. For those of you brand new
I hope
to
they're talking
XDefiant,
about
we had
leveling.
Mark give you his top tips for each of XDefiant's 5 game modes.
This is the part that I really don't care about.
Starting off with Escort, one of the key things that people don't necessarily realize is that multiple people on the package make it move faster. So when you get the opportunity, and you can get a few of the defenders to have to respawn.
I really want to
jump on
skip
that
this, but
package
you guys
and
can
move as
skip
fast
it
as
if you want to. I'll just make fun of it in the meantime.
For zone control, it's all about pushing or defending.
For zone control, it's all about controlling the zones.
For attackers, having someone as a phantom with either the deployable shield or the blitz shield, being able to use that to dive and push into the zones while being supported by healing from Libertad or extra DPS from cleaners will really help you push into those zones. If you're on defense, DedSec, cleaners, echelon characters, when you're in there and you're able to create the chaos to disrupt the coordinated effort that the offense is putting, that's going to help you win that round. So domination is a pretty well-known and classic game mode. And flanking has always been important in this mode because players are often super focused on the points. And with XDefiant, our factions like Echelon have great abilities to help them be better flankers.
You know, like going
And
invisible.
Another tip for domination is if you can get control of the B point, don't sit back on the point trying to defend. Push a little bit forward. Not too much so that you lose your back point, but just enough to interrupt.
He's
any
talking
kind of
about spawn
coordinated
trapping.
attack.
Nice.
To
Love
be
it.
successful on Occupy, it's all about getting to the next point before the other team does.
So that's
Which
hard
means
point, by the way.
rotating out early, knowing where your points are going to spawn, getting there, and keeping an eye on the clock so you can get there early. So Hotshot is basically our TDM mode. It's about
That's
getting
kill
as many
confirmed.
kills as you can and collecting the other players' bounties to increase your score. The key thing is, if the Hotshot is on your team, make sure you try to let that person collect the bounties because they will be worth 3 points versus 1 point.
That one
if
I'll give you.
collect
That one's actually a good tip.
Those are my top tips for each game mode, but in XDefiant, there are always different ways to win. So best of luck to everyone out there.
Nothing cleans like burning. Don't forget to clock out.
For an arena shooter like XDefiant, map knowledge is so important. So to better understand how maps are
Isn't there,
built,
like,
we had creative
I don't
director
know how many
Safi
maps there
Sada
are.
break it down.
I guess we're going to go into all of them.
Safi, creative director on XDefiant, and today we're talking about maps. As you may already know, XDefiant is an arcade shooter where many worlds collide. Our goal for maps is to create great shooter layouts that fully embrace the fantasy of
lots
the
of
worlds
maps.
they come from. We're proud.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 14 maps at launch. And I think the only one I don't recognize is Dumbo. And then some of them are specific to modes. I'm sure I've played Dumbo though, but maybe Attica Heights.
Proud to have an extremely diverse pool of maps at launch. You'll feel a big visual contrast when jumping from map to map, ranging from the vibrant and Caribbean-inspired Pueblito from Far Cry 6 to the urban streets of Brooklyn from The Division in Dumbo, or the playful Noodle Tech campus from Watch Dogs 2. That contrast is also something we aim for through the map design, as we always try to convey the original game's layout as much as possible. It helps us make our game richer and more varied, offering players opportunities to use different loadouts and faction combinations to best adapt to the map they play. A good example is the way we designed Echelon HQ from scratch, but kept it inspired by Splinter Cell. It's an arena map that offers a lot of
I do really
opportunities
like that.
to
I like
hide,
that they have all of these
easily
maps
take
from the
cover,
various
and
games.
sneak up on
I think that's
opponents
really,
using
really cool. Like,
air
I'm not
vents and
huge on
other small
Ubisoft
tunnels
games,
to
but
surprise them. It all ties back to the spy.
you know they're
films.
going to do Assassin's Creed.
Attica Heights from Ghost Recon Phantoms is another arena map worth mentioning. Since Phantoms was a PvP shooter, we were able to stay closer to the original map layout, which offered a unique set of features. It's fully symmetrical, has long sightlines, pitfalls, and an interesting layered central objective point. Another big element we're proud of.
So this is
our
another
linear
part
maps. These maps are designed for asymmetrical modes that
I know how
have
maps work, you
progressive
know?
objectives. We knew these maps and modes would make our faction gameplay shine, but didn't know if it was going to work with our fast TTK. So we first experimented with an escort mode on Times Square, and it was an instant hit with the team. From there, we decided to make linear maps a true part of our core game and added another linear mode called Zone Control. Their
So they
bigger
weren't
size
actually
allows
originally
for
planning on
bigger
putting those modes,
spaces
which
and
is interesting because those are my
landmarks,
favorite
but also
modes.
very distinct and contrasted styles within each map. For example, when playing Meltdown, players start outside on a snowy train track with long sightlines, before getting inside a foundry with more close quarter combat, and then finish in the huge blast furnace circular room. Each zone of the map calls for different gameplay dynamics. We've put a lot of work into the 14 maps going out at launch and already consider them a strong pillar of XDefiant. We're really happy to see the positive reaction so far, so we'll keep pushing on this pillar and intend to release one new map every single month.
So a new map
I
every
can't
month.
wait to see how players react
That's
to some
solid.
very surprising ones we're currently working on. Thanks for watching, and see you online.
With Mark's game mode tips and Sophie's map walkthrough, you're more than prepared to start racking up wins in XDefiant. But what happens next? How do you go from being good at the game to being great at the game?
Are you going to go into
That's
leveling
exactly
or
what
like
we asked a
weapon
bunch of
camos or
professional
anything like
FPS
that?
players. Here are their tips on how to play XDefiant like a pro.
They're just going to talk about movement, I'm assuming. Oh, you used to be a pro Call of Duty player, I know that.
Top tips to play XDefiant like a pro, I would say
And
number
Crim
one,
6.
your loadout. You got to have the right loadout. You got to get the attachments that are benefiting the playstyle that you want to aim for.
I like to put on attachments that are going to make me quicker. I like to be fast. I like to be mobile. For you, you might need to be more accurate. Either way, try them, see how they fit you, and go from there.
If I had to go with like go-to attachments, I'd probably go with Quick Draw. Quick Draw is always a must for me. Just to be able to
Like, are
pull my
we?
gun up faster.
I want to know if they're going to
When it
go
comes
into like
assault
weapon
rifles,
leveling
too,
or
I like
anything
to throw
like
on the
that.
red dot just so I can be able to see what I'm shooting at. Those are like my two must-haves.
These are all gameplay tips.
I personally love quick draw across the board on the SMGs, the assault rifles, and it just makes it so you want to have a good balance of good recoil control, be able to aim in quickly, and be ready for those spontaneous gunfights.
increases that and force the enemy to advance things, but these are things that are
Okay, so the end of that
That's
was
it
just
for our
all
first
pro
episode
tips.
of XDebrief. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to follow us at Play XDefiant and submit your
All right,
questions
so
and game.
they didn't really cover anything that I wanted to particularly see there. I wanted to see more about like how the leveling is going to work, what prestiges are like, things along those lines. If we go to their Twitter, there's a couple things we can learn. They have a thing on their monetization philosophy. And I believe that this essentially just goes how the rewards will work. Free battle pass rewards. They're also going to have a paid battle pass. Focus on customization, weapon skins, MVP player animations, player cards, emoji packs, character skins, and then even more in the future. And then the offering. So this is the things that you can buy are the premium battle pass, character cosmetics, weapon cosmetics, faction unlocks. That worries me. I wish they went in more depth with that. Because you can literally unlock the factions by buying them as opposed to leveling up to get them. player card backgrounds, player animations, and emoji packs. So pretty straightforward as far as monetization goes. We also have Twitch drops, which will be coming week 1. You have 30 minutes of weapon boost XP. After 60 minutes, you get this weapon camo. And then 90 minutes, you get an M4A1 camo. And then week 2, new camos. Week 3, new camos. Week 4. I really like that they're doing this. I will be streaming this game. So make sure you follow me on Twitch. It's linked down in the description. And unfortunately, I'm not there on launch day, but we'll be streaming on day 2 and moving forward after that, and mixing some Call of Duty in there as well. Other than that, we don't have a lot of the questions I wanted answered today answered. So still waiting to hear about weapon camos, still waiting to hear about leveling and prestiging and things along those lines. But yeah, I just skipped over all the pro player comments because we weren't going to learn anything from that. But anyway, let me know what you're thinking of XDefiant. If you're going to be playing it, if you want to watch me play it, make sure you subscribe and everything like that. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Peace.